labor costs, we know, are a big portion of a company's cost basis. As much as 50 to 60% of a company's cost structure is their labor costs. So while the US, and I think this is being replicated in other places, from an employment standpoint is still below where it was pre-COVID. In the US, it's about 8 million people. The labor market, I argue, is a lot tighter than that implies, because you have aging baby boomers that maybe were looking to retire in a couple of years, but COVID is speeding up that process. You've had very generous unemployment benefits given to people that will continue until September, that is incentivizing them not to quickly go back to work. You've had, because schools have been shut, you've had at least a parent that needs to be home to watch their child, and that has reduced the level of labor supply relative to the demand. So in the US, there's 8.1 million job openings. That is an all-time record high. At the same time, we're still 8 million jobs below where we were pre-COVID. So this means that you're going to see, and we already are seeing, particularly on the lower income level of the wage scale, higher wages, because that is needed to incentivize people to come back to work. Now, on the upper wage earner and the higher skilled, we're not seeing much change because, well, first of all, those people didn't really lose their job, and the supply-demand dynamic thus didn't really change. But trying to get people back into restaurants, back into bars, back into stadiums again to man their different posts, that is taking now a higher wage salary. So it's raising the lower end of the wage scale, which then can filter in as you go higher. So this is the Beige Book. Now, the Beige Book actually was updated yesterday. So this, my apologies, was the Beige Book in the previous one about a month ago. But the sentiment is still the same. There is still a lack of supply of labor, which is leading to higher wages. And I thought that, you know, some of these comments were pretty interesting about how manufacturers and now service companies are having to dramatically increase wages to bring people off the sidelines. And this is more. This is interesting that a restaurant in Philly was offering $1,000 bonus if workers stayed on for at least 90 days. And another retail contact reported possibly raising their minimum wage to $15 an hour sooner than previously planned. Now, some states in the U.S. already has $15 an hour minimum wage, but the national level is below that, and other states are below that. But just so you have perspective here, the level of employment benefits, the added benefits that the federal government is giving on top of the state level, is the equivalent of about $17 to $18 an hour of unemployment benefits. So if you're a company, you're a restaurant that was paying your people $10, $11 an hour, and now you're competing with unemployment insurance, paying $18 an hour, you can understand the lack of supply and the need for businesses to raise wages, because now they're competing, unfortunately, against the government rather than more of the marketplace dictating wages. Now, it's great for the employee, but if the employer can't open their business because they can't pay the employees those wages, well, then the employee really has no job then. And here are some more. This was an interesting quote from a region in Richmond, Virginia. One manufacturer said they needed to hire and train 3 workers to retain 1 because of the because they knew that at least 2 of them weren't going to show up for work. And here's some more. You know, Chicago, numerous contacts reported difficulty finding workers, particularly at the entry level, and a variety of reasons. So we'll have to see. I think it'll be a real big test in September in the U.S. when these unemployment benefits expire. Now, some states, about 20 plus states, are actually taking it upon themselves to address this situation. They are cutting off these extended benefits themselves. And interestingly enough, there was the CEO of Hyatt Hotels was on CNBC a few weeks ago and said, in the states that have cut off the extended unemployment benefits, those are the places where they've seen a pickup in the supply of labor. So again, we'll see in September the extent of which this will happen. And just a couple of more quotes. Contacts in St. Louis attributed the stronger wage pressures to higher wage expectations for new hires, particularly from low-wage workers. Minneapolis, multiple contacts mentioned growing prevalence of sign-on bonuses, which helped attract candidates. And keep in mind, you're a business. You have two choices when you have to pay more for labor. You offset that through faster productivity gains, or you have no choice and passing that, or you eat it in terms of a margin hit, or you try to raise prices to your customers to offset that. And that's what a lot of businesses are experiencing on top of all the other pressures that I discussed. And just a few more. Here's one in Dallas. Manufacturing firms said they were able to successfully hire, but filling positions that paid below $20 an hour was particularly difficult. Now, keep in mind, in some states, the minimum wage is low teens, but because the government is paying the equivalent of $18, Dallas manufacturers are saying they need to pay at least $20.